What up, YouTube? Here with a post-fight video of the Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou fight. Now, before I give you out a summary of what happened in the fight, I'm going to tell you out the results first. Anthony Joshua was able to gain the win via second-round knockout. It was a devastating knockout, one of the best knockouts produced out of this year thus far. Now, will it count as a legitimate knockout win on the behalf of Anthony Joshua? Because this was more of a exhibition bout than it was a legitimate bout for the hierarchy of heavyweight boxing. Now, Anthony Joshua, including this victory, is on a 4-fight win streak. After his back-to-back losses versus Alexander Usyk for the unified heavyweight titles, he defeated Jermaine Franklin via unanimous decision in what was a lackluster performance where we didn't see Anthony Joshua be as aggressive and as hungry for the knockout as we're used to seeing Anthony Joshua, with the reputation that Anthony Joshua has built and cemented himself to have this mean reputation of knocking out his opponents in a vicious style. He showed more patience, more durability, and more of a smart strategy for that fight with the style that he approached that fight versus Jermaine Franklin with. And then we saw him knock out Robert Helenius, and then we saw him stop Otto Wallin, and then now he knocks out Francis Ngannou. Now, what he did versus Otto Wallin was the most impressive win, because Otto Wallin was a difficult opponent for Anthony Joshua, and for him, the way he defeated Otto Wallin was impressive, because the current WBC heavyweight champion Tyson Fury struggled with Otto Wallin, and he made quick work of Otto Wallin, dominating that fight in a one-sided performance. And other than Francis Ngannou and Deontay Wilder, from the first fight that Tyson Fury had versus Deontay Wilder, Otto Wallin was the toughest opponent Tyson Fury had faced thus far. And then Francis Ngannou, who went the distance in his debut fight in boxing versus Tyson Fury and knocked down Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua made quick work of Francis Ngannou in only 2 rounds, dropping him in the first round with a straight right hand, and then dropping him again in the second round. And then from the second knockdown, when Francis Ngannou got up to beat the count, he looked delirious, and Anthony Joshua took advantage of that and executed and landed yet another devastating right hand to finish Francis Ngannou to get the victory. And Anthony Joshua, him defeating Jermaine Franklin, showed his improvement when it came to patience, but it was expected of him to defeat Jermaine Franklin. And Robert Helenius, he was supposed to make easy work out of Robert Helenius as well, as he did when he knocked out Robert Helenius. And now Francis Ngannou, he was defeated in a style where the public, not only boxing fans, but the public was expecting Tyson Fury to defeat Francis Ngannou. Anthony Joshua had to defeat Francis Ngannou the way how Tyson Fury was expected to defeat Francis Ngannou. Now, as I have said before, if the knockout, even though on paper, record-wise, it counts as a legitimate knockout win for Anthony Joshua, but he did that versus a very non-experienced fighter in Francis Ngannou. And Francis Ngannou, he is very green when it comes to the sport of boxing. He is a decorated MMA fighter who's a former UFC champion, who earned himself the reputation of being a knockout artist, and as well as being very well durable, having a very gainy chin. But when it comes to boxing, that is one-dimensional when it comes to a form of combat, only using punches, unlike mixed martial arts where they use all different variants of combat martial arts. And Francis Ngannou is handicapped from what he's used to and that is fighting under MMA rules. And when he steps in there with a decorated former two-time champion, a knockout artist like Anthony Joshua, you got to give Francis Ngannou the credit for being as brave as he is. And he did announce that he still wants to continue his professional boxing career. He called out another fight versus Tyson Fury, as well as a fight versus Deontay Wilder. And as far as Anthony Joshua goes, now from what I've heard from boxing media, is that the title organization, when it comes to their heavyweight rankings, Anthony Joshua has leveled up. And Anthony Joshua, with this 4 consecutive victories that he's got in his last 4 fights, he is in a good position right now. Now, this win versus Francis Ngannou, as I said, because this was more of a spectacle bout, a money-making bout, an exhibition show bout, more than it was a legitimate heavyweight bout. As I had mentioned before, I say Anthony Joshua can earn himself a title shot if he fights Joseph Parker, who had one of the best performances of last year in defeating Deontay Wilder. And on the co-main event to this card, we saw Joseph Parker defeat Zhilei Zhang in a majority decision. And now Joseph Parker is next in line as well to be a strong candidate to challenge for whoever walks out the winner of that undisputed heavyweight title bout with Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. And Tyson Fury, who was at that fight ringside observing this fight, and he and Anthony Joshua are in talks of having a future bout. And both fighters being a UK-based fighter, that would be a fight of a huge magnitude, not only out there in the UK, but for the whole sport of boxing, because Anthony Joshua is already a huge draw, as well as Tyson Fury. And that fight would be a sellout stadium fight out there in England. And if they were to have a fight in Saudi Arabia or in America, it'd still be a fight of a big magnitude with attention being drawn to that fight. And Anthony Joshua, as I have said, if he has one more fight or 1 or 2 more fights versus a legitimate top-ranked heavyweight fighter, then he could be in more of a stronger chance at getting a shot at the undisputed heavyweight title and possibly becoming a 3-time heavyweight champion. But this time, unlike being unified heavyweight champion like before, he'll be an undisputed heavyweight champion if he's able to get a shot and walk out successfully victorious in fighting the undisputed heavyweight champion whenever, if or when he gets a title shot versus the undisputed heavyweight champion. And Anthony Joshua, I say the next ideal opponent for him would be a rematch versus Joseph Parker. That would be a good fight because from their first affair, it was a very close competitive bout. Anthony Joshua did walk away the winner. I did thought Anthony Joshua did enough to pull out the victory in that fight and walk away the winner. But as I had said, it was a very close competitive bout. And Joseph Parker, with this momentum that he got going on right now, it would be the perfect time for them to have another rematch. And Zhilei Zhang is still a tough opponent. That would be a good fight for Anthony Joshua, as well as Filip Hrgovic, an undefeated fighter. And that is a tough fight for Anthony Joshua as well. Either 3 of those guys would be a good ideal opponent for Anthony Joshua's next fight. And it wouldn't be much of a difficult fight to make happen because Anthony Joshua has fought Joseph Parker before. Zhilei Zhang, who was featured on the co-main event to this fight with Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou, that means there won't be any promotional issues for Zhilei Zhang versus Anthony Joshua to happen, if it was to happen, and Filip Hrgovic, who's fought on the undercard where Anthony Joshua was main eventing that before, there shouldn't be any promotional issues in making that fight with Joshua and Hrgovic either. And as I have said, all three of those fighters getting in there with Anthony Joshua would be a good look for Anthony Joshua and would not be an issue of a fight to make happen for Anthony Joshua to get in there with any of the three fighters that I had named who would be ideal to step in there versus Anthony Joshua next. And as well as Joyce, who picked up a win versus Ali yesterday. He didn't look that good. He was able to pick up the win via 10th round TKO, but a bounce back performance from a fighter that's coming back from back-to-back knockout defeats. Fans that are educated and are long-time avid boxing fans look for a much better performance than the one that we saw yesterday from Joyce. Now, Joseph Parker, who was stopped by Joyce when they had fought, called out Joyce for another fight to avenge his defeat from their first fight. Now, if Joseph Parker decides to go that route instead of having another fight versus Anthony Joshua, that wouldn't be a bad idea either. And with this current streak that Joyce is on right now, with him not looking impressive in his last fight yesterday, this would be the perfect opportune time for Joseph Parker to avenge his defeat from their first fight and make himself even look better than he already is looking. Then he could have more of a momentum to fight bigger names such as a Anthony Joshua and head in there with a better momentum for a rematch versus Anthony Joshua, which would be an ideal good look for Joseph Parker, and it would be a marketable fight because of how marketable Anthony Joshua is. Now, the more dangerous fight for Anthony Joshua will be Filip Hrgovic, because Hrgovic is undefeated, he's technically sound, and he has a style that Anthony Joshua has previously shown to struggle with before. And Zhilei Zhang, that would be a fan-friendly style of a fight because both fighters have a reputation for having heavy hands, and if they were to slug it out, that would call for a fan-friendly style affair if we was to see Anthony Joshua take on Zhilei Zhang for his next bout. Now, Andy Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua would be a good fight as well. Not anymore, but I'm still mentioning Andy Ruiz, even though he's been inactive for over a year or two. I don't know what is going on with Andy Ruiz and his promotional thing going on right now. Now, Anthony Joshua, he was able to avenge his first professional defeat versus Andy Ruiz in their rematch. But I'm sure Andy Ruiz would like to have a trilogy bout versus Anthony Joshua because they're tied at 1 wins each. And Anthony Joshua didn't knock out Andy Ruiz like Andy Ruiz knocked out Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua fought more a smarter, strategic fight, avoiding slugging it out with Andy Ruiz during their second fight. Now, with the current stages right now, Anthony Joshua would most certainly, without a shadow of a doubt, be the favorite in that fight to win that fight because he stayed consistent. Now, that's why there's not that much of an interest for a third fight as it was before when Andy Ruiz was active, because now Anthony Joshua has, as I said, stayed consistent, unlike Andy Ruiz. Now, the third fight with Ruiz and Joshua doesn't sound as appealing as a fight versus either Joseph Parker, Zhilei Zhang, or Filip Hrgovic, because all three of those guys are more active than Andy Ruiz as of right now. And then if Anthony Joshua can get a win versus any of those guys, the way how he's been collecting wins as of recently, then Anthony Joshua would have to be next in line, marketably, promotionally, and purely speaking from a sport, for the sport's sake, have to have Anthony Joshua, if he's able to get a win versus those guys that I have mentioned as the next ideal candidate opponents for him in the next fight, and he wins in a impressive fashion, then, as I said, he is next in line to challenge for the undisputed heavyweight titles. And as far as Francis Ngannou goes, as I have said, shout out to him because he stepped in there with veterans who are decorated boxing champions, not just boxers, but boxing champions immediately from the gate. In his debut fight as a professional boxer, and he still has the desire to want to fight the best available names out there that is in boxing, in heavyweight boxing. And we can credit his reputation and the work that he put in during his MMA career as to why he's able to get these attraction bouts. But I gotta give Francis Ngannou his credit for the performance that he pulled off versus Tyson Fury, and his bravery and his zeal to want to keep boxing. And with that being said, that does it for this post-fight video. Subscribe for more content. Share this video. Like this video if y'all want. Click the links in the description to show y'all support for this channel. Anything will be appreciated. And with that being said, I'm out of here. Be good and peace.